In the time I worked in the pharma industry, we had the best teams, also the best experts. The systems were very well structured and we were efficient. And the management requirements were like, but you have to be faster. We need to make the studies much in a shorter period of time, and so on. So it probably from your experience. And doing the or tasks like we did it before, just on the paper with Excel files, it is not the way to be. It is we are on the limit actually, and this is the reason why digitalization can help us to reach these new goals and the development of the industry and needs, and to reach the needs of the patients. For the pharmaceutical industry, it is of course more complex than for others, having GMP compliance topics and very high requirements on the documentation. And of course, the question is, do we really have the technology that can meet the requirements on pharma? It is really applicable for pharmaceutical industry, in our case for today, for manufacturing.
I want to tell you why we decided to divide the whole project into the phases. From my experience, because I was working with the MES project in my previous company, I know that the MES project is like a 5 or 6 year project. So we decided as a company to divide it into the phases. For the first stage, we choose the packaging because this is the easiest process for the implementation, the best for the learning and making conclusion. And we decide that the packaging part of the process will be our experimental area. We already implemented MES on the packaging 2 years ago. And now after the babysitting time, we are working daily in the MES. So also implementation of MES in our story have a countable and hard countable benefits, which I mentioned, and also this uncountable, which from my experience you cannot add into the business case, but also makes you benefits with your.
I would say another benefit to all this is that the more digital you go, the less you have to invest in topics such as quality oversight. So when you go in the US market, quality oversight has become a strong expectation due to an amendment of the Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act. And nowadays, companies are almost expected to have an entire department that's called quality oversight. And the more you digitize things, the less effort you have to put into this. So that's
Definitely.
another thing that you can probably add to your slide. I mean, unless you're not on the US market yet.
Yeah, what I mean, if as soon as you have all the data, you're open for other applications. Adam mentioned advanced planning. So if you have a digital twin, you can start simulating. What's very interesting, and I only put things on here, which in my experience, because I tested it in the past, which pay off itself. Model, what I mean, a golden badge 2.0, if you want so, is like you have deep insights with multivariate calibration models from your AI supported root cause investigation. So you have insights which sensor must show which value at which point in time in your process. So it's very complicated, but the AI or the advanced analytics system, they can handle it. And so if you have this running beside your routine GMP production, all of a sudden you have an indication if the process continues as it is at the moment, it will turn bad in about 15 minutes, or it will stay safe. And this is a very valuable information if you have production. So it's difficult to validate for GMP purposes, but just from the production side, if you have this in real time, this information, it helps you a lot. And to initiate, for instance, additional testing. What I tested in the past successfully and validated it also is like you can have a support to document quality events directly on the shop floor. Of course, this is directly linked then to an electronic logbook and so on and so on. But if you have a system in place which supports the people correctly documenting the quality event and even classify or give them an indication of the classification, is changing. Because what you do not produce, you cannot sell.
Yeah, I just keep commenting a little bit and some thoughts from compliance perspective, from GMP perspective, the advantages that digitalization actually has when it comes to inspection practice, preparing for inspection. I'm thinking about inspections from inspection agencies that have an FDA-like mindset, such as Anvisa, for instance, or other regulatory agencies. And they look especially at the reality of things, of operators adhering to their procedures. So training people to adhere to what the documents say and that the documents actually reflect what's actually done in the company is a key asset to many inspection bodies. So can we rely on what your quality system says on paper when they didn't see the practices on site in clean rooms, especially in aseptic manufacturing, but also in non-sterile product manufacturing. It's very important to the supervising bodies that your quality system actually ends up with people doing what the paper says and not just the paper being there just for the sake of an inspection and just being just a declaration of intent of what you're doing. But then the reality of operators is totally different. But training people to do as what is supposed to do by an AI application is a wonderful way of using it without dehumanizing the workplace. One other point is probably the big question: how do you, for instance, how much extra effort is it to qualify, to computer system validate, to validate an AI application? And we probably should go into this in an extra experts talk. But those are probably the big challenges and questions that are coming toward the industry, or are there? And there's not a whole lot of guidance on this yet, but it is solidifying. There's more and more white papers and concept papers coming out. And if you have questions on this, we can still talk about that a little bit. Win the day with an initial project thing, and then all of a sudden it was all there. So it was a learning curve for the company, I'm sure. And I think this is the approach to go by. You pick a system. You said you picked this most simple process on your map of processes, the packaging process, to start with digitalization. And you continued, and then you actually at some point had the MES rolled out over a lot of your process landscape, and then you actually hooked up your utilities, the production equipment to it. So you would almost say you did it step by step, and that made it handleable. That's manageable, I suppose. And you know, the way I understand this, Adam, your system is almost as far advanced as integrated manufacturing.
The companies are not ready for implementation of the whole packet of the project. As I said before, and the MES project is 5-year project. At the beginning, also is the tough time for everyone because of the management of the change. The change on the shop floor is a thing that is really hard to make a change in the shop floor. As you said, Dietmar, the packaging in our map is the easiest process. So we make the time for the learning, we make the time for the change, and then the next steps, the next phases were just simpler for us to implement.
Important thing is you start. I mean, you need to have a vision, a plan where you want to go. So it's a digital master plan, as we called it, is required, but so that you know that you start at the right locations. Yeah. But the important thing is you start, and you start small, and based on these experiences, you add the next step.
It's coming eventually. Digitalization is coming, but especially AI is something that people are a little bit fearful, and it takes a venturesome leadership really go for this, and also then give the resources to the quality assurance people to represent this then also to client audits, to inspections, and also how do you put these things into a regulatory submission file? That's a whole nother thing.
And we are just happy to help and drive the innovation, digitalization, and also AI topics.